Housing and Community Safety Scrutiny Committee on the 7th of November 2024. I am Councillor Charlotte Goldsworthy and I will be chairing this meeting. Before we all move on to the next agenda item, please note this meeting will be recorded. It is a request by myself that all cameras are actually on for those that are online. Please can you ensure that your phones are switched to silent for the duration of the meeting? Can members and officers who are present in the chamber please use their microphones when speaking? When asked to raise your hand, can members who are virtually viewing this meeting raise your electronic hand, and members in the chamber please raise your physical hand. For those members virtually viewing, please can you keep the chat function for urgent IT issues and not for questions or comments. And again, I just repeat that can all members attending please virtually ensure that their cameras are on for the duration of the meeting. We'll go straight into agenda item 2. Are there any declarations of interest?
Can't see any, Chair.
Agenda item 3. You will see the minutes attached at pages 5 to 10 of your agenda pack. Can I have a second? I will propose, can I have a seconder, please?
I'll second, Chair.
If members do not indicate to the contrary, then I will take it that these minutes are approved.
Chair, I can confirm those minutes are approved.
Going on to item 4. And we go straight to agenda item 4A, yeah? Cabinet members and officers, this is the going straight into the budget. So I'm going to ask Andrew if you can just come in, please.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Afternoon, members. So you'll see the report before you. I'll just talk you through a bit about how we're going to do this today, because I think it's an important report for you to see. Where I'll start is, as I've said before, I think this has been a really difficult budget setting process. The Directorate of Social Services, Housing, Community Safety, our 5% of the savings proposals equates to 5.4 million or just over. And that's at a time when nationally we're seeing increasing pressures on housing services, on services for adult services and children's services. We're seeing more demand in those areas and more complexity of those vulnerable people who need support. We're also at a time where other agencies are having to step back from some of the things that they do. And you'll have seen some of that on the news, and I've rehearsed that with you in the past. But their services to vulnerable people are reducing. And I'm talking about, you know, the police service, prison service, probation, some parts of health. The people that they're not providing services to are still in our communities and still are vulnerable and need to have their needs met. So again, that's creating that additional demand. But notwithstanding that, the Directorate understands it needs to play a role in making sure that the Council can balance its budget. And so we have put forward nearly £5.4 million worth of savings. Some of those are well worked through. Some of them are still to have the detail set out. But we'll go through with you as much as we can and as much detail as you need, hopefully. The intention, Chair, then is for us to go through the budget line by line today. I'll ask each head of service to go through their budget savings proposals line by line. After each line, they will, and they've done their explanation, they'll stop and they'll ask whether there's any questions that members have, just in case you've got any questions that you want to ask. We'll also end by asking whether there's any questions that anyone wants to go through. So without further ado, Chair, I will hand over, if you're happy, to Shelley Howard, who will go through the first line of our budget savings around housing.
Thank you. So as you can see, we've got an expected efficiency saving of £112,000, and the description there is around reducing the cost of providing homelessness services through service redesign and preventing people from requiring temporary accommodation. So members will remember that I've previously, at the beginning of this year, brought a strategy to you in regards to how we reverse the current situation and trend that we're seeing, where we're seeing higher and higher numbers of people entering temporary accommodation and us needing to purchase rooms in bed and breakfast and hotels in order for us to meet our statutory duties. So we did a lot of financial modelling, and we developed a strategy around one, preventing people from needing temporary accommodation by preventing at source, preventing people from becoming homeless, which will then naturally reduce the number of people in temporary accommodation. And then also making sure that we have better support for those that do become homeless and enter temporary accommodation so that they can be quickly rehoused. And we are progressing that strategy. We undertook a restructure of our housing options team, and that went live in August. And we've also now got a strategic housing function. So this efficiency target is attached to the fact that those teams are up and running now, and the work that we've intended to do in our strategies will start to be progressed and will start to deliver the benefits to our communities, which will then naturally result in an efficiency saving.
Okay, taking members' questions now. Are there any? I can't see any here. No questions. Andrew?
Yeah, thanks very much, Chair. So then I'll go back to Kerry Warren, who has a number of saving items that she will go through. If Kerry, if you can stop after each one for questions, please.
Thank you, Andrew. Good afternoon, everyone. Just a note from me. Could we have written this any smaller? I need a magnifying glass. All right. So in terms of our first savings of 232,000, that's a natural reduction in the number of children that we are looking after. And it's those allowances that we are currently paying for. So we can see how many children over the next 12 months and next year will be turning 18. We're currently paying for those youngsters with regards to the allowances that are mentioned in terms of looked after children, residence orders, special guardianship orders, and adoption allowances. So we're able to calculate how much of a saving we will make as those young people no longer receive those allowances once they turn 18. So that's a saving of £232,000. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Right. One from myself. So obviously, if that's a natural reduction, obviously going down, what then happens if there are some then that new come into the service? Obviously, have you actually like put them into these figures, or is it just the data that you have now with the plans going forward will turn 18?
Of course, you know, we've said to you time and time again, those young people, children and young people, the need to be looked after will be looked after. However, given the way that we've set up our services and the quality of the social work practice, we have seen a downward trajectory now for those young people needing accommodation over the last 10 years, and it continues to reduce. So that is a consideration for us. Of course, that is a risk, but we're not anticipating those numbers in any big numbers associated that would prove costly.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Freegard, please.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, Kerry, can you just clarify what it means by non-looked after children, because that's what's in the box. Natural reduction in the number of non-looked after children.
Yeah, so that's they were looked after. So they would have been looked after, and they will no longer be looked after. I read that as well. They would no longer be looked after because they've turned 18. So we're paying for them now.
They turned 18, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So later on, in the papers, I'm bringing it up now because it's relevant to this. Later on in the papers, it says we have a duty of care to accommodate people, but that underspend is normally cancels out the overspend.
Can you repeat that, Sharon, please?
Later on in the papers, I think it was page 20, I think, or somewhere, or was it down the bottom there? Further down, it's got historically the underspend for in-house allowances has offset the overspend of external residential provisions. So that money's saved up there. It's nothing to do with that, is it?
Well, it's a good point, and I'll get to that. Do you want me to wait until we get to that one, and I can talk in some more detail about that
Yeah,
one?
okay. But one point on that, and I know Andrew said right at the beginning, we've only got a little detail on some things. This is why we've asked in corporate parenting if we can have figures for the special guardianship order.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
yeah.
we absolutely need those figures to be able to, you know, to look at what you've got here and what we've got, and whether people are in county or out of county and things like that. That's why we need those figures.
Yes, we can certainly provide all of that data for you, Councillor Freegard.
Right. Okay. So I'll wait till you go further down, Kerry. Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, just explaining, with my glasses reflecting, I normally turn them off myself, but I didn't want to just jump up and run. Do you know what I mean? So Pam kindly off that. Right, okay, thanks, Sharon.
The next line.
Just bear with me, Andrew wants to come in there first.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Just very quickly to answer Councillor Freegard's question, because it was me that wrote the bit about natural reduction of the number of non-looked after children. So the way I understood that, Councillor Freegard, is that those children who've been adopted, they're no longer looked after by the local authority. Those people who are on special guardianship orders are no longer looked after. So that's the legal term around that. So we're still paying them allowances, but they're not looked after children by the local authority. They are looked after by their adopters. They'll be looked after by their special guardians, and their special guardians and adopters have full responsibilities for those children. They don't need to have looked after children reviews, etc., etc. So that's the clarification I just wanted to add as far as that's concerned. You're on mute, Councillor Freegard.
Sharon, you're on mute.
Thanks, Andrew, for that. Yeah, that's totally clear. Just for my own understanding, would any of those children have required taxis or transport in any form?
Yeah, Kerry would be better placed to answer that, but yes, they might well be, because what we're trying to do is support them to stay with their special guardians or their adopted parents. So they might be. Yes, absolutely.
All right. Okay. Thanks, Andrew.
Okay.
Okay, so moving on. So reduction in staffing costs, including, now this says the restructure of the practice support worker service. What we've actually done is a review of all of our family support services in terms of our support workers. I think what we found during COVID and post-COVID was that families needed our support during the evenings and at weekends when the pressure perhaps was greater and the day shift had gone home. And so we've done an exercise looking at where that greatest need is and how that need will be met. So you'll see over the next few weeks a paper that will show a much more flexible workforce in terms of support staff, and support staff that we're bringing in at a lower grade. So we're talking about families, after consultation with families and with young people, they're telling us that it's that more practical support that they need. And we're able to, so part of that review will reduce the number of grade 7s that we've got as support staff within children's services, and bring in or convert staff into sort of a lower grade in terms of grade 4s and grade 5s. So you'll see a saving target attached to that. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Just on that, obviously, it's gotten obviously the risk and the impact. The deletion of the post will have a negative impact on it. So what's the negative impact, obviously, it's meant by that?
Being very honest with you, I think this is an exercise that we would have done regardless, because as I've said, it's come from discussions with families and with children in relation to where that need is and needing that flexibility in being available, as I said, during the evenings and weekends. But you know, reducing staff, support staff, over time. We can do this exercise once, but if I was to have to repeat that, then that would start to have an impact on service delivery. But I would be confident that we're able to do this exercise and make that savings target without it having an impact.
Because obviously, as you can appreciate, when we are actually reading, we are just reading. I don't know if obviously the officers got what we are reading, but obviously it's a little, like, few lines which it doesn't really make sense to the members, in fairness. So we haven't really been able to scrutinise it before, obviously, whatever the feedback is today. And again, I think in this committee, I think everyone will agree, because we are actually dealing with the most vulnerable, then anything that comes as a, like a negative impact, have always got to be questioned, because I know there's going to be, with these budgets and that, risks are being taken, but they've got to be calculated and safe risks, which I'm confident staff will do. But as soon as anything like that is identified, then I would expect then that to come back to us to obviously look at it further. Yeah.
Yes, of course. We've made, I mean, the accountants year today, I think the savings for, was it 1.4 million, Beth? And so, with all due respect, we've had to make 1.4 million pounds worth of savings, and they have to come from somewhere within my budget. But I would be confident this year, of this next financial year, that we'll be able to manage that. But as I said, once that's happened, it's happened. And I think any further shrinkage of support services will have an impact, a direct impact on the most vulnerable families and children within Neath Talbot.
Any further questions by members? Alan Lockyer, please.
Yeah, hi guys. The reduction in staffing costs, is that through natural wastage then, or do you foresee some job losses?
That's a really good question, because we had a meeting on it this morning actually, and we're meeting with staff next week, with HR and with our union representation who are aware of this. And we do have a number of staff within that cohort of a certain age, shall we say, who are interested in a combination of sort of flexi retirement, possibly voluntary redundancy. So we are fairly confident that we would reach that target in that way. So I think the combination of the new staff grade, as I described, plus workers already indicating that they would be interested in perhaps working less hours and maybe retiring, we should be able to reach that target naturally.
That's great. Thanks very much for
Sian Frigard, please.
Yeah, thanks for that. Yeah, given what the chair's just said about the high risk there and the negative impact, would we be able to have more detailed, Kerry, on that? I know you're saying natural wastage, but we need some more detailed data on that to see whether it is feasible or not, because obviously that would be high risk, wouldn't it? What we're talking about there, it's a high risk. Or is it low risk or medium risk?
It's we can do this exercise. It's all going to come at a risk, isn't it? There's going to be a risk attached to everything.
Is it high risk or low risk?
I would say, given the stability of the service and the way in which we're going about this, we could manage this next year. So I wouldn't see it as high risk, as a one-off exercise. The risk will increase the more times we have to do it, I guess.
Yeah, what I'm saying is, if it does become redundancies, then clearly we'd need far more detail, because it's high risk. That's all I'm mentioning, Kerry. If it turns out it's not natural wastage.
Okay, and we are about to present. We've got a paper ready that will give you that sort of detail, so you'll be able to see in more detail, the kind of work that workers will be able to carry out, the hours that they'll be working, so they'll be much more responsive and much more visible within the community. And yes, by then we will have a better understanding of what it looks like in terms of those staff that have indicated they want to leave.
Oh, right. Can I just come back on that, Chair, a minute? Yeah. Are we talking about increasing hours and changing contracts?
not increasing hours, changing
Great.
the contracts will mean that they'll work different hours. So they'll be working evenings and weekends, and you know, so they'll be more responsive. That's what families are telling us. You know, that's the pressure points where, you know, perhaps the traditional way of working, you know, have been office hours for the majority of staff, although they do work over. But
That's
it's still
fine,
sort of-
Kerry. I understand that. But if that's not in their contract now for those hours, then we'd be looking at changing employees' contracts.
There will be some changes to contract, although our contracts do they talk about being more flexible. Yeah.
Yeah, but that would come with on costs, maybe.
Yeah, that has been taken into account.
Right. Okay.
Right. I
Thank you.
think the other thing I need to point out with a lot of these budgets here, obviously we haven't gone into them, and again, it's say for instance, and I mentioned there was one that came to committee not long ago for them to go out to consultation about the triage centre. Obviously, when some of that work has been done. So again, once the work is done, they'll have a better view of costings, and some of them might go up for all we know. But again, it could be some could come down as well. So I think we've got to keep in mind each one as well, that staff have been given a percentage to find. And in fairness, that's been a tough task. So again, I think this is each item basically is, well, none of us want it, but again, it's doing the best everyone can. So I think that's important to say as well. So are you all right, Sharon, with that? Do you want to come back with anything?
Yeah, no, I'm just concerned if we changing employees' contracts and the on cost that could have to budget situations is all. Thank you,
Okay.
Chair.
Thanks. If you want to continue. Oh, Andrew Jarrett, please.
Thanks, Chair. Just to say, so if I start off where you just ended there, Chair. So this has been really difficult for the director, as I introduced. It's been really difficult for each head of service to come up with the sort of savings without it being high risk. And let me just praise you by saying that all of this is risky, and probably what we've tried to do is create a balance of as much at the lower end of risk as we can. But I think it's absolutely correct that members, when we're putting forward £386,000 of staffing savings, to ask for more detail about what the consequences of that will be, both for those staff, but also for the service. And if you're happy to do so, Chair, once we've completed a bit more of the work around this, we can bring a report back to Scrutiny for you to look at it in detail.
Thank you, Andrew. Okay, if you want to continue.
So moving on then, we've got £630,000 attached to the fostering service, and that's a reduction in budget for in-house allowances, external agency costs and carer travel. So the bulk of that, and you can see that in the narrative, as I mentioned earlier on, and committee will be aware that we've reduced our number of looked after children as the years have gone on. And as a result, we've used that really. So we've held on to, we've had that as a buffer. We've had that as a buffer in terms of our mainstream carers and the reduction in the looked after children numbers. But we are now looking to so historically the underspend for the in-house allowance, as it says there, has offset the overspend for our residential provision. And as you know, particularly during COVID, our residential numbers doubled, although I'm pleased to say they've now settled down and are starting to reduce. Using this money, using that underspend as part of the saving target takes away that buffer. So there's obviously a risk there, because once that, once that's gone. But so that's a saving of £630,000. It mentions the harmonisation of fostering allowances across Wales as a potential risk. And we were talking about this morning. This has been an ongoing piece of work for some time, but it is likely to reach a conclusion possibly next year. And that's where there would be a set amount of money for foster carers. So we, so once those fees are, that's what the harmonisation of fees mean. So it could mean that we have to pay our foster carers more, and obviously we have less money to play with, if you like. It also talks about the external agency costs and carer travel, and that was something that I think Councillor Freegard mentioned. I think we've done incredibly well on reducing the travel costs. Vic Smith, that my side leads on, looked after children and children with disability, and we did an exercise across the service where we've seen those travel costs come down, taxi costs come down considerably, haven't they? So that's allowing us to put that into the mix. So overall, there's a saving there then of 630,000. And the other thing is our independent fostering agency costs. So they are foster parents that live out of county, out of Neath Talbot, with private agencies. They come at a tidy sum. They're expensive, and our own service is of a much better quality. But you've seen those numbers come down as well. So it's not just the mainstream carers that have reduced, but it's our numbers of IFAs, as we call them, independent fostering agency. And as that money has come down, obviously you can see the saving target there. I'm happy to answer questions, Chair.
In one of the reports, it says that you, and I know obviously it's this bid has an impact on it, but in one of the reports, it states about the decline in people coming forward to foster children.
Mm.
Now, how is that having an impact? Obviously, because obviously your costings here, then if you were actually predicting different things, where the children sort of going, because obviously you're not paying them carers if they're not obviously coming forward, and you've got retirements and things like that come in. So is that all incorporated into this as well?
Well, the work that the fostering service have done over the last 12 months has just been incredible. So the irony is that sort of the years gone by, we were kind of bringing in 1 or 2 carers, a year, or just the interest around some of that. And I think, with this drive on Foster Plus, and that's the, part of our transformation work where we're looking to bring in and attract experienced foster carers for youngsters that are in residential care, to step them down into a family home with that wraparound support for those carers. We've seen an interest with regards to assessments being undertaken on those carers, but it's also had the knock-on effect of carers coming forward, or potential carers coming forward for mainstream fostering. So we've seen the numbers go up to, well, is it about a dozen or more? So a dozen or more assessments in the last year than we've had for many years before that. So it's been tremendous, to be honest with you. So it's had, and if you've noticed, they are everywhere, so you'll see them in the purple hoodies and, you name it.
They fill my Facebook feed, Gerald Walker and co. Always.
Yeah.
In fairness.
It is tremendous. So as we've kept that momentum going, we were in Port Talbot and Cafe yesterday with the chief exec being filmed as a last sort of goodbye. And that was lovely, but it's had, it's real difference. So we can talk in terms of numbers. We've had about a dozen more carers for mainstream carers, enthusiastic, really up for it. Plus, numbers, carers interested in supporting youngsters out of residential care as well. But again, that is a risk, because that's how we've used it historically. And then that money obviously will be gone.
If I can bring in Sharon Freegard, please.
Yeah, thanks, Kerry, for that. And yeah, great strides have been done in the fostering service, and I feel like this is going to negate all that. But going back to the point about the figures, we need to have the costs and the figures for people in residential care out of county. That would be really helpful, because we don't seem to have had that lately. But I'm concerned that this is going to put pressure on people so that we take in fewer people. I think it's confining us because of budget to how many people we can put in care. And I'm wondering whether this is realistic, because we do have a duty of care. And as I think it was the chair that said, the reduction for the in-house allowances is not going to be conducive to attracting foster carers. So is this really a realistic figure? Because I don't think we should be doing it at all, because it is confining people to not taking children into care. I can see, Andrew, you got your hand up, and this is always an issue, because I know later on it says that the primary objective of the council is to keep the child with the parent, but at what cost? And this is concerning. Thanks.
Andrew, if I just bring the director in a minute.
Oh, okay then. Thanks, Chair. I'm sure I'm going to say what Kerry's going to say as well, which is, whilst we've been going through the process of realigning and reinvigorating children's services, Councillor Freegard, you've been with us, and we've had to make lots of difficult decisions. We have always been very clear to say that if a child needs to come into care, then they absolutely will come into care. And I've said to full council, I've said to this scrutiny committee on a number of occasions, if that means in the end I have to come and report an overspend on that particular line of the budget to you, then that's what we will do. We've done that with children in residential care, where we felt that children needed residential care to meet their needs. Then we've had to go over budget as far as that's concerned, and that's what's creating the pressure on the system at the moment. So we do need to have a look at that. But we're not going to be moving children away from residential care without making sure that they have their needs properly met elsewhere. So if they can't have their needs met elsewhere, then we won't move them. They'll stay where they are, and we'll report through as we go through the year that actually that's not been possible. As far as fostering allowance is concerned, so we're not reducing any fostering allowances. So any allowances that go to foster carers, so that won't stop foster carers coming through. So in fact, our offer to foster carers is better than it's ever been. This is as a result of the number of looked after children decreasing, and as Kerry said, the number of looked after children who are with expensive out-of-county placements in private agencies reducing. Then we have some underspend on the fostering budget. I hear what you say about, well, this is risky. I think it is risky, because it does mean that Kerry next year will not be able to have the number of children in residential that she's currently got. But they've got plans in place for that in children's services, which allows a proper step down. You've seen that within our transformation programme. And as I say, if we can't do that within the timeframes that we need to, then we'll be reporting back to you, and those children will still stay where they are, because when needs come first, and I've always said that. The budget will look after itself as we move forward.
Well, thank you, Andrew, for that. Can we make sure that we do have in the committee the figures for out-of-county and agencies, so that we got some costings? And that is reassuring what you've said, but I hope that the staff know that they are not being pressured, so that if they need to bring in people and we go on an overspend, that's okay.
We'll certainly provide the data for you, Councillor Freegard, and I've said this before and I'll say it again. I'm a child protection social worker, and was for a number of years, and so is my senior team. Everything we do is through a safeguarding lens. So it's only those children that step down from either residential care or step out to foster care altogether. That only happens when it's safe to do so. That's the basis on which we make every decision. I think what would be helpful is, alongside the data, we can bring some young people in to talk to you and tell their stories. We've got videos where we've spent time with youngsters to see youngsters going through that process in court, where they've been subject to care orders right up until they're 18 years of age. And the
Yeah, sorry,
restrictions.
Kerry, but
Yeah,
but the
the
issue here
restrictions.
is the figures. It's not about. It's lovely to hear those stories, but we need to have the figures. We need to be monitoring what's happening in and outside of this county with those children. So it's really the data I'd prefer. Thanks.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, but I do really need to come back to give reassurance to Scrutiny that all of our decisions come from a safeguarding position, and those youngsters are the ones that are best placed to describe the differences made to them when social workers have supported them to return home. So I think that probably could give you, as much reassurance, and we'll make sure that that is combined with a set of data that will back that up.
Well, we need
Okay.
to see the data. That is critical. But I will come back to the safeguarding issue when we go on to the next item. Thanks.
All right. So the next one is in terms of income generation. So that's something that happens with every local authority. If we've got room, if you like. So if we've got either foster carers or if there's a placement, say for mother and baby, that's not been used by Neath Talbot Council, and another local authority needs that provision, then there's an arrangement across Wales where we would offer that support, and obviously that comes at a cost. We charge for that, and I think there's an arrangement. I'm looking to Beth in our accountant because I think there's an agreed arrangement in terms of how much we can ask, Bethan, isn't it? So it's not a huge amount of money. It's probably a little bit higher than that now, I think. But so that's as a result of neighbouring authorities needing placements and us providing that service. So that allows then carers to keep their hand in, if you like, to continue to support children when we haven't got children within Neath Talbot. So they've got vacancies.
Okay. So I'm just assuming then that the 52,000 is on average of what we do year on year now, is it?
That's what it is at the moment, Beth, isn't it?
Yes, 52,000 for next year. We've got 7 placements currently. It depends year on year how long child is in placement, but we're looking around 52,000 for next year.
There's no more questions there. If you can go straight down to the next one, which is...
Yeah, so this is a small amount of money, but this was a jointly funded post, health post. So we had a health visitor in our front door. Unfortunately, I think all partners are having to make similar savings, and so the health weren't able to continue to fund their half of the post, and so we're not in a position to fund the whole post. We've come up with another arrangement with health in terms of the service they were providing through their single point of access, and so that money is now being used as part of the my savings target.
No questions there. If you just move on, please.
Okay, so the next one is our discretionary spend. So that's the again, that's a smaller amount of money. That's the money that we allocate to the teams, and it's discretionary. So it's always used to you might be supporting families in a crisis. We might be providing something for them, which will allow children to sometimes it's a bed, sometimes it's sort of a car seat, or it could be families struggling with finances. They run off very low amounts of money that the teams across my service have to spend each year, and we are looking to so there's a small reduction there in terms of that discretionary spend of £50,000.
There's no questions there. If we just move on.
Well, we mentioned taxi routes, and as I said, I think it's down to the joined up efforts really of the whole service that through working together and working across the council, we've been able to reduce the cost of those taxi routes by, to say, 21,200.
Right, with this one now, is that social taxis or is it education taxis? Because obviously you said it's across, so is it?
It's education.
Right, okay. So that comes out of our budget then rather than education budgets, because I got to be honest, there's still a few issues with families that do need the transport and it's been cut. And we did bring that consultancy in, which has cost us a substantial amount of money, where, in my personal views, staff could have done that job. But again, it's, these are some of the concerns now that do affect them families, especially like the children with conditions such as neurodiverse ones, which is, that. So again, I think I'd like to know more about that sort of saving really, going forward as well, because obviously the children do need the transport. And that's across all wards of councillors, because lots of complaints have come in.
And if I just may reassure members, it's not that we're not providing the transport. So we've not, I don't know of any examples where we said to families, look, we can't provide the transport. We've just tried to work together with education. We've got our own staff supporting families in that transport we've just found other ways. We did the review ourselves, and we've got foster carers providing transport. I think it's more carers doing that now than before. So we've found other ways of providing the transport as opposed to, them having to find their own way. So we've not cut, we've not cut that service in terms of the number of journeys. We're just doing it differently.
Okay, move on. Oh.
Yeah. Good afternoon, members at home. I've just been advised that there's likely to be a problem with ModGov from 3 o'clock this afternoon. So if you do have any issues with accessing your papers, can you just let me know? We've got a contingency. We can email them out to you. Yeah, so that's from 3 o'clock this afternoon. So if you can let me know, please.
Yeah. Screenshot 2 pages. If you've got any questions, I would advise. Right, okay, Angela Thomas. We're over to you next, yeah?
Thank you, Chair. Okay, for adult services then, cost savings for next year of three.
You're very low, you are, Angela. We can't hear you in the chamber much.
Any better?
No. Is that us?
No one else has a problem.
Yeah.
Chair, I'll go and get my headphones, see if it makes a difference.
Okay, no worries. Two minutes, everyone.
No, just to let everyone know, it is outside of our control, and it's not a local issue.
It's not Pam's fault.
It's not a local issue, so.
Any better?
You there, speak?
You hear me now?
Yeah, that's much better, Ange.
Okay. Okay, for adults, a £3.9 million savings with an addition.
You've gone off now, Ange.
Can you hear me?
No, I can, yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. So yes, £3.9 million worth of savings and £1.3 million worth of vacancy factor that we have to find next year. So picking up on some of the comments that have been said just now, talking about the brief narrative and that there's not much to be explained is purposely brief. This is a public meeting and all of what I'm going to say now is sensitive and all will require full public consultation. So that members are clear, all of these savings targets will be followed up with detailed reports to Scrutiny and Cabinet. So if I start with the first one, direct payments review, 250,000. These services haven't been reviewed since the implementation of the Wellbeing Act in 2014. So we're going to undertake a review of a range of things, really. Reassessments of package of care. We believe some of them might have been oversubscribed. There is substantial sums of money accruing in bank accounts where there are delays in the appointment of PAs. And then there are issues around managed accounts and deficiencies there. So I'll stop there, Chair, for any questions.
No questions. That was quite straightforward, thank you.
Okay. The next one, this is the biggest one.
Sorry, Peter's come in with his hand.
Angela, where do we stand with legislation with regards to this?
Well, it'll be reassessed by social workers, Peter, Councillor Richards. Yeah, so it will be about right sizing packages of care. I think if I'm straight and frank, I think when we implemented direct payments initially, I think we sort of gave everybody a direct payment that asked for it. I think we're a lot more, we've got a duty under the Act to offer a direct payment, but we've also got a duty to look at different outcomes and how they're achieved. So direct payment isn't the only solution. And I think when we initially brought this in, I think it was the solution for everything. I think we were out there knocking doors, asking people if they wanted a direct payment. And that predates myself and the director. That's how it was done initially.
I understand that, but I'm just wondering, there's obviously been an appeal system put in place then, when people who've been reduced.
Yes, absolutely. Well, we're not saying the word reduced. We're staying clear of that. We're saying right-sized.
Mm-hmm. But then there will be an appeal procedure in there,
Yeah.
so people will come back and there will be a cost added to that appeals procedure.
That happens now anyway. That happens every time we take a decision.
Okay.
That's just
Okay,
ongoing.
thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah.
Okay. The next one is the biggest savings. This is where we're looking to develop our own in-house provision for complex needs. So we're looking at a range of things from the site at Getley Gron for supported living or extra care provision. We're looking at additional day services, possibly Avon Neath, and we're looking at increasing the number of respite beds in Tremor Moor. If I tell committee now that we've got 19 people with mental health and 26 people with learning disabilities residing in supported living or residential placements, currently costing the council £4.5 million. So we think by developing our own provision and running it in-house, we could save that £2 million. The issue here is going to be the ability to deliver it within timescales.
Pete, is that legacy hand?
But Chair, just to come back to Angela on that, this really what you're saying is a wish list. We are putting £2 million in there. Is that a realistic figure? And that is, can that be achieved? Because I know we're struggling to complete this year's budget in line. So
Yeah. Well, we've done the maths. So this is what I'm telling you. Currently, we've got 45 people who are in placements they don't need to be in. So they're in residential or they're in supported living, and we don't feel they need to be there. So we've done that exercise, and that's costing £4.5 million. If we could bring some of those people back into in-house provision, we think we could deliver the 2 million. Now, I'm not, I think, yeah, the cost, it'll come on further down as well. The costs that the external providers they're naming their price. We have got no alternatives and no provision in-house. So an average placement now is anything between £4,000 and £8,000 a week. And when I come into the one on placement efficiencies, I can explain to you how we're challenging that. but that is the norm now. They're extortionate sums of money, and a lot of these people do not need to be in these forms of living arrangements. I'm not going to pretend this is easy.
No, I just think that the 2 million is a large figure to achieve, to be honest with you.
Well,
and I said,
it's 2
closing the
million
budget
against
this year has been a challenge.
Yeah, it's 2 million against a range of things. So you've got Gethley Gron, if it's Gethley Gron or wherever, could deliver 1 million of that. 500,000 could come out of additional respite beds, etc. So it's a range of different forms of things that we need to build.
Okay.
Angela, just to confirm, was it Peter, have you finished, or do you want to come back?
No, fine, thank you, Chair.
Yeah. This project also is an invest to save, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, and I think that's key as well for the members to know. Obviously, there's some refurbishments that being done in existing provisions, so therefore, that would obviously help bring them people back in as well. So it is an invest to save project that has been there. So again, what I would say is when obviously Angela, you say about not actually delivering it in that timeline, is that? Because lots of the time when people say that it's the delivery, it's our actual internal processes that holds a lot of projects up. Is that the case here?
Well,
maybe.
I think we've got the director chairs a transformation programme, and I've got a dedicated officer now moving the transformation agenda on. So I think we're getting there. I think by the end of this this calendar year, I think we'll be in a better position from January onwards to move these things forward. If I could just add, Chair, I think one of the big issues that we're facing is the risk aversion by some of these providers. If we could do it ourselves in-house, I think we'd manage that risk better. Wherever we're trying to make changes, there's always that challenge back to us that they were not prepared to take risks, and that's where the costs are coming in. So we think by delivering it in-house is the better solution.
Okay, and I agree on that. Any other questions? No other questions, Ange.
Okay, placement efficiencies, 650k. So this is an ongoing review. The commissioning team review placements, supported living schemes. We're challenging hotel costs and overheads. We year on year delivering on this. We're already achieving 720k in year. So we're confident by continuing this process, the 650k should be achievable next year. And that's no reduction in services, that's purely challenging providers in how they provide the services.
No questions there. Do you want to move on?
Yep. Review of domiciliary care services, and that's not just domiciliary care in the community, that's also domiciliary care in supported living schemes, etc. I've mentioned to committee before, we spend £1.2 million on sleeping ins in our supported living providers. A lot of that is just in case, and we think with the use of assistive technology, falls prevention services, etc., we could deliver on this. This doesn't come without risks. This will be seen as a reduction in services rather than a right-sized. We currently provide 4 calls in domiciliary care for those people who require it. If you're in a health setting and you've got palliative care, the maximum you'll have is 3 calls a day. So I am aware of other local authorities who are reducing packages of care where they can. We're not there yet, but we are reviewing everything. There are issues around sit-in services. So many of our domiciliary care agencies now are providing respite services, as in sit-in services, to provide loved ones with a break. However, that comes at a cost. So that is being charged at £25 an hour that we're currently charged for domiciliary care. And we think third sector organisations, or perhaps ourselves in-house, could provide some of those services at half that price. So again, I'll stop for questions, Chair.
Peter, please.
Sorry to keep coming back, Chair. With the placement efficiencies, Angela, is that going to have an effect on hospitals with bed blocking?
No, nothing to do with that at all, Councillor Richards. That's not the issue. That's purely about us challenging hotel costs, overheads and things that people charge within supported living arrangements.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, no more questions, Ange.
Okay, I'll move on to Tremaglyn then. So Tremaglyn residential unit will be coming back to us in the new year. We've said that by creating a residential reablement capacity, we will be able to provide people with a period of respite from the community and from hospitals for up to 6 weeks, which will then require people to go home with a reduced package of care or no care at all. That 250k is predicated on 12 beds. We've currently got 4, and we'll possibly have another 2 in the coming weeks, as I think 2 residents are moving into nursing care. But that full year effect would be dependent on 12 beds, so that one is a bit of a risk, but it's one we're prepared to manage.
Any questions? No questions, Ange.
Okay, and the final one, reduction in staff. Can I just say for members, this is a last resort. It was put in as a balancing figure. If I have to, I will restructure parts of the service. I have had some interest in early retirement voluntary redundancy, but as I say, this will be a last resort for adult services because we need the staff we've got to deliver the services we have. So that I can deliver the 250k, but I would rather find it from elsewhere at this point in time.
Okay, thank you. And Andrew, do you want to come back in on anything there?
Yes, thanks, Chair. Just on all of those savings, just to remind members, you'll know this already, but none of this, as I said, has been easy. We can't remove cost out of the system without some impact, so there will be impact, and I think we need to make sure that we're reflecting that impact to you as we go along, and we will do that. There's also some more work we need to do on some of these proposals, as you've seen, and we can give you some of the detail of that as and when we work that through. So I think this isn't the last time you'll be seeing this, obviously, members. We will keep you updated as we get more detail on what it is that we are going to do in detail to deliver some of these savings. Thank you, Chair.
Just a big thank you, because obviously we know that this isn't an easy task for anyone, to all staff. Obviously, you know, these are just guidelines going forward. They're not set in stone because, you know, things with life on a daily basis of people change. And as I said before, this is, you know, our most vulnerable we are. So again, when you're looking at the savings, sometimes we might be saving £2 million in one hand, but then, you know, the way in which mental health and other issues are going up in our communities, basically, you know, that could rise on you know, overnight. So again, thank you everyone for that. And I know who and staff want to run out to you now because they've had a fantastic time with us. So no problem. Right, if we'll just move on then, just bear with me. Hold on. I've lost where I am myself now. No, I'm on the wrong page. Oh, yeah, right, okay. So agenda item 4A we've done, and now we're going on to agenda item 4B. This report is for decision, and it is Neath Talbot Council Children and Young People Service Placements Commissioning Strategy. First of all, I just want to say that the reports now that obviously we go in were in detail and at length, and they were excellent in fairness. So if you don't have many questions, I think that's a pat on the back to yourselves. So again, now, is there anything that officers would like to add to this report, please?
Thank you, Chair. We have Gemma Argist and Vic Smith here today who are able to answer questions. Thank you.
Councillor Freegard, please.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah. Going back to the point I made about safeguarding and what you said about keeping children safe, Andrew, as being our primary focus. On page 20 in the Cabinet, it's under background. The second and the third paragraphs I'm relating to. The second paragraph, it says, in line with the Act, the Council's primary objective is to support children to remain with a parent or person with parental responsibility. If this is not possible, there is nowhere in that paragraph where it says where it is safe to do so. And I think it's really important that we put something where it's safe to do so, or to mention safeguarding in that paragraph, because it does read like that's not our primary focus. And I agree with what you said, but I really think that there should be something in there about where it is safe to do so. And in the third part, where it says that these can include foster carers, residential children's homes, or supported accommodation, for example, that's why I keep reiterating about the data for those types of establishment. If we could have that, so that members can scrutinise and can understand for monitoring purposes where we are, if that's possible, please. Thanks.
Yes, absolutely, Councillor Freegarden. I think we've got corporate parenting panel next week, so we'll make sure that we've got that data for you for that panel, as well as it coming back into scrutiny, and we will change that sentence.
I think it is important, because it's important for staff to know that they've got that clause there on many levels. So thank you, Kerry. Thanks for that.
That's the only question we've got on that one. So part on the back, as I said, look. Let's have a look. The recommendations is listed on page 16 of the agenda pack. I will propose, can I have a seconder, please?
I'll second, Chair.
Sorry, I got to put my speaker on, haven't I? Members, if you do not wish, get out. No? That is me. No. Right. God, what's going on here? God, it's all them figures in my head, isn't it? Can members please indicate if they wish to abstain? No one does.
I can see no abstentions, Chair.
Members, if you do not indicate to the contrary, then I will take it that this decision is supported to Cabinet.
Chair, I can see no indication to the contrary, so this recommendation is supported to Cabinet.
Agenda item 5A. Update report on housing and communities transformation programmes. This is a report for information only, and Shelley is going to give us a brief update on it. Thank you.
Thank you. So I won't go through the full report because there is a lot of detail in there. On the whole, we've made really good progress against our programmes of work, but we can also see from this update report that some of the interventions that we've tried to put in place haven't necessarily had the outcomes we were hoping for. And also in some situations, the progress hasn't gone as far as we were hoping either for some of those projects. So, for example, we haven't had any referrals to our tenancy sustainment panel, and we set that up to work in partnership with RSLs as a really first stage, really early intervention type service to identify people that may be struggling with their tenancy and may be at risk of losing their tenancy later down the line. So we could get in there very early and put support services around those people to help stabilise their situation. As the report says, we haven't had any referrals into that panel. So when we've asked RSLs around this, the reason for that is that it's been hard for the RSLs to engage with households that might benefit from this service. So they haven't been able to get the relevant permissions to refer those people and share the data and information with us to work in partnership with them. So we're going to have to get back round the table and have a look at different ways that we can try and put interventions and services in place to support that cohort of people, which is something we're going to start doing. Also, the triage service, we've done a lot of work around that. We've made really good progress on what that model looks like, but we haven't identified a suitable location. So that's not quite where we hoped it would be in terms of progress, but we continue to work on that. And then as well, There's some areas that you'll see performance isn't as strong as it was last year. And an example of that is people are waiting much longer for a disabled facilities grant. We did bring a paper back here the other month where we talk about the reasons for this, and we presented some options, and we officers are progressing the recommendations that were took forward by Cabinet in respect of how we can try and reverse that. And we are currently out to public consultation in respect of reintroducing a means test for small and mediums works that we hope will then be able to result in a much more positive position in the next financial year. But despite some of those setbacks, overall progress has been really strong, really positive. So as you'll see, the percentage of people that we prevented from becoming homeless has significantly increased against the position of the same period last year. We've got really good, strong working relationships with RSLs, so we've really invested a lot into our partnerships, and that has resulted in being more successful with the nominations we put forward to RSLs, and we believe we'll be able to further strengthen that position once we've got a dedicated nominations officer in post, which hopefully that post holder will be coming into post shortly. We've also managed to do a lot of work around making sure we have better intelligence and a better understanding of the needs of people that are coming to us for support. So what are the reasons why people are losing the tenancy and becoming homeless, and also why are people struggling to then obtain a new tenancy? And because we've now got better data there, it allows us to have much stronger conversations with our partners to develop services and also accommodation that is more aligned to the needs of those people we need to support. We've also been really successful in terms of capital spend. So we were able to significantly increase the amount of capital investment into Neath Talbot against the 2022-23 position. We're also making good progress with our empty home scheme, which is a project to help to bring empty properties back into use. We've had a lot of interest there, and a lot of applications. So we are really doing a lot of work there that's really positive. And we did a significant amount of work the end of the calendar year, around about November time, around supporting our Ukrainian guests. So we had a number of Ukrainian guests that were in welcome centres and hotels, and our Ukrainian support team did a really good job of supporting people to be able to obtain more settled accommodation as well. And a significant proportion of those people were able to resettle into the Neath Talbot area. Pause on Patrol, which is sort of like a neighbourhood watch scheme, that has grown and gone from success to success. It's celebrated its 10th anniversary this year, and we have over 1,600 members, and the feedback from people that are part of that scheme always is really positive. And alongside that as well, the community safety team have been really successful in going out there and trying to identify and obtain lots of different kind of pots of funding to strengthen their work. One of the pots of money that we were successful in is extra money to be able to continue our Hangout project, but not just to continue the project, we were able to expand that and purchase a mobile unit, so we can then move the Hangout project around Neath Talbot to kind of target areas that are identified as antisocial behaviour hotspots as well, so we can be really proactive with that work of preventing antisocial behaviour. And a lot of work has took place as well with regards to reducing the harms associated with substance use. So, for example, we've been able to increase the distribution of naloxone by 8%, and testing for bloodborne viruses have increased by 56% from the 2022-23 position. And alongside that, members may remember we brought a business case, a large business case, towards the beginning of the year in respect of the area planning board partners. So there was a number of partners, the health board, the criminal justice system, Swansea Council, all coming together to develop a collaborative, integrated approach to delivering substance use services. A lot of work has gone into that with our partners, and we're very close to going live with our procurement. So I'll leave it there. I'm really pleased with the progress, and I'll hand back over for questions, Chair. Thank you.
I know this is an information document, but I do have a few questions myself on it. I've got to give, obviously, the ones who have come some questions, haven't I? Do you know what I mean? But I had them before you all came anyway. So, right, okay. So, page 89, Housing First. Is that you, Emma? Oh, right, okay. It says about, obviously, the different types of models that you've looked at and analysed. Have you got any examples of these? There.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'm Mark Edwards, Principal Officer, Housing Strategy. Good afternoon, all. Yeah, and thank you for the question. We're currently looking to work with our commissioning colleagues to look at different modelling types. We've done a lot of research into Housing First itself. Quite recently, a set of principles have been reviewed around Housing First. They don't quite fit all our sort of our thoughts on what a supported accommodation could look like. So we need to sort of step back a little bit and look more overall at the full supported range of accommodation options. We hope to move this forward very soon with some events with commissioning colleagues, with service providers, but also to meet up with registered social landlords to start talking about property opportunities as well. That should be moved forward by the end of this year. By early next year, then, we will start to look at the specification models more to look at the different types of accommodation we need. So we'll not just be Housing First, we're looking at other sport accommodation models as well.
So when you actually say their models, is it just the model of the system, or is it actually different models of the actual housing? Like, obviously some local authorities have gone to shipping containers, and quite snazzy in it, really. Boat houses on Neath Canal I can see now come in. Do you know what I mean? Never know, do you?
And we keep that report.
So
yeah.
is it some sort of different sort of models like that? Because obviously,
Yeah, absolutely.
technology of models can be different, can it? So
We have looked at the canal and the boat models. We've done a briefing paper, and it's quite costly, but we are still exploring that option. We've also this week met the local business that provides shipping containers, and that was really interesting, and we're just putting a briefing paper together. It was incredible to see the transition from a container into a home. So there are a lot of challenges with that, but we're exploring those now, and that fits into a wider bit of work we're doing around modular homes, because we think that there's a big future for that option, not just for temporary accommodation, but also settled accommodation. But just to point out as well, we're doing a lot of work around understanding our clients' needs more. So a lot of people entrenched in homelessness, in unsuitable accommodation. So we're working with colleagues now to understand those needs more, which will help us profile what kind of accommodation we require. And that's ongoing, but there's been some excellent work done recently.
good, thank you. Thank you for that. In obviously the review of the housing options IT platform, how is obviously the digital with homelessness now obviously working? Because obviously some are on the streets. So again, they don't access the wireless and things like that. So again, is that going in the right direction, or obviously do you have? Because I looked at your page earlier, and I don't know what I was expecting to see, but then it's the typical council page, isn't it? But I was expecting to see something a bit more easy friendly, but it wasn't. I didn't think it was easy friendly, if I'm being honest. So that's a bit of feedback for you there.
It's really good feedback, and that is something we're looking at, isn't it? So, Mark, do you want to talk a bit about the work?
Yes, certainly, and totally agree. The web page itself, as it stands, needs a lot of work done. We've recently prepared some reports for our digital transformation colleagues, and we're working with them now for a discovery phase to look at a number of really urgent IT requirements for the service. Part of that includes the web page. Absolutely, I think that the information on the web page isn't good enough for people underneath Talbot, but also does drive a lot of demand in different areas which could be handled better. A quick example, we have made some subtle changes because some of the links were not working. We're going to propose a sort of a smaller change very soon. We have an intern from Swansea University working with us, who's a web designer. So he's looked at the web page and he's coming up with some ideas for us. And we're going to change the content a lot to enable a lot better engagement opportunity for people from Neath for Talbot, which include a number of different platforms. Ideally, longer down the line, we'll look at the opportunities to engage online, as well as ensuring it's not one size fits all.
Very true, and it's just like a lot of words, whereas there's not a lot like sort of pictures or things like that. Whereas in other areas, then it's like with the HR and that they've adapted. There's more photos and things like that on it. But I thought, obviously, with these people having different, issues and barriers, then it was definitely a no-go zone for me. But the contact form was quite easy going. No, because it's so simple and small. So that was that one. So next question then, because I can't see anyone else there. It's just me again. Sorry. Going on to the increasing number of lettings. This at the moment, obviously, we're having obviously a homeless issue, and no one can argue that case, can they? Do you know what I mean? But the lot of feedback to us as councillors is private landlords. Obviously, the amount of money being charged, as well as being served now Section 21s. They're selling up. I've only had one this morning. He's selling 3 of his houses because that's his retirement plan. The budget has come in and forced other changes in people's lives now as well. So again, at the moment, are we having or seeing an issue? Increase, decrease in Section 21s coming in?
I don't think we're seeing it. Sorry, Shalay, did you want to comment? No, I don't think we're seeing an increase. I think it's probably still stable, so we're not seeing a decrease. We had a bit of a purge when the Renting Homes Act came in. So that came in December 22. So by about June to December last year, we had quite a significant amount. So the number is stable, but obviously the sector is pretty inaccessible, for want of a better word, for our client group at the moment. The rent is extortionate. Landlords are, let's be honest, they are taking advantage of the market. They want to maximise their income. The local housing allowance did increase this year, but then all you see, the local housing allowance increases and then landlords increase their rent. So the shortfall is still there, so it's just not affordable. We've got a private sector officer in the team. She does a weekly check on what's available, and hardly ever anything is within LHA rates. They're usually a few £100 shortfall a month, which it's hard for people working, but certainly for people who are on benefits and, we're looking to move on, it's impossible. So there is a little bit of move on into the sector, but it's not a lot. But hopefully with a lot of other work that's going on, that'll sort of we can re-engage with that now.
And that's one of the things then is a big concern. I think all the members here will actually agree, is, as you say, it's a struggle for those who are working. And so, those who've got to find the extra money, and I just don't know how they are actually doing it, that are not working. And, 2-bedroom houses going for like £800 and £900. And it's, lots of us in this room, really, if we looked at our own incomes and budgets, that everyone would actually struggle on it. So that is a concern. Peter, you wanted to come in?
Yeah, just briefly, Chair, I just like to, this is a mammoth task. I appreciate all the work that's been put in with the teams. It's tireless. It's been going on before the COVID outbreak. And I understand the pressure they're under, but, in all fairness, I got to thank the team for the report and for all the work that's going in. There was only one brief question I had. It's on page 90. It's the temporary accommodation. It's regarding the analysis that you took on the ambassador and the treetops. Have you got is there any information on that analysis?
So information on the analysis on the treetops and the ambassador. Yeah, so that goes back to some of the work that Mark was mentioning, and I'll hand over to him. But what we've been doing is doing a lot of work, working in a more person-centred way to understand the holistic needs of people that are in the Ambassador and in Treetops, to understand what's preventing people from being able to access additional, a new home, because a lot of the time, yes, there is a need for bricks and mortar, but there are big challenges in terms of being able to obtain tenancies because of other kind of support needs that people may have. So, Mark, would you like to just talk a little bit about the work that you and your team have done around that?
Yeah, of course, and thank you for the question. We did prepare the reports on the Ambassador and the Treetops Hotel, and we did consider the cost element to both those options, but we started to look more at the clients who were actually residing in both, and we started to understand what their potential housing pathways would be for them to move out and look at move-on opportunities. So we did quite a lot of data crunching on actual clients, but then trying to understand how to manage their expectations and ensure that their pathway through the system was accessible so they could move on. So what we found, for example, is that a number of clients were excluded from the housing register. So we've started to have more in-depth discussions now with Titarian. So Titarian administer the housing register for us. So now there's been some fantastic work done by frontline staff. We're coming in now to support those who have maybe got stuck in the system. And just as some examples, we have worked on some appeals with Titarian, which were approved, and some people have moved on. We're also looking to ensure the people who are eligible to move on are maximising their opportunities by showing interest and accepting properties where they want to live. And we'll also continue to work now with Titarian just to look and make sure the housing register is kept up to date as possible. So all the clients who are owed a homelessness duty are correctly placed. There was an area of time when the data couldn't be shared due to data sharing protocols ended. They've now been set back up. We are now sharing the data, so we've got a more meaningful list, but that work will continue. And we're quite now well positioned with Titarian to review the data sharing agreements for next year, and that will lead in then to a full review of the shared lettings policy in 2026. We've got a number of observations and requirements we want to put in, and we'll come back to closer to the date. I hope that helps in some way.
Pete, do you want to come
that's
back?
fantastic, Mark. No, thank you very much. Thanks for that. Yeah.
In regards to I just forgot my question then, and it was good. It was excellent. It was. I can remember it well tomorrow. I will have it now. You'll all wait till 6 now. No. Oh, never mind. I'll have to come back. All right. That's the question. I remember it. Right. In regards to obviously in better relationships and data sharing, that it was some time ago where a lot of individuals are judged on paperwork. As things now changed, as in those making them decisions, meeting the people face to face, because I know of one experience that basically they met someone face to face, and then obviously seeing them and how they seen them on paper because of previous tenancy issues, then that person had changed a bit, and was on the right steps going forward. Do you know what I mean? So again, is the current system face to face? Or is it again just, tick box exercise on paper?
Yeah, then thank you for the question again, Chair. It's a good one. The answer is it's not all done face-to-face at the moment. We are exploring more opportunities with Titarian, trying to be collaborative to increase those opportunities. The honest answer is that there's quite a high number of applicants applying to join the register every week, which does make it difficult to do face-to-face assessments, housing needs assessments. From the context of housing option clients who are homelessness duty, we are now doing a lot more work with Titarian to ensure that there's a more person-centred approach. One of the worries we have had is that the housing register is approaching 6,000 people, which has really gone up. We're doing a lot of analysis work now to understand why. But we're mindful that these are people who are numbers on a system. We want them to exist as people, so they can be person-centred. So there have been good case studies recently where clients have been excluded, but due to intervention work, we've managed that decision to be reversed. And absolutely, by meeting the person it does actually display then that a lot of people have been through trauma, but they deserve an opportunity and have displayed behaviour changes that enables them to move on. That work is continuing. It's not where we want it to be totally, but we'll continue to do that.
Jeff Jones, can you come in, please?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. It was mentioned earlier that you're doing work with the empty properties around the borough. What's the progress with that then? Because I know it was talked about when I was elected about 2 years ago, and I know there's a few in the ward in Cummer, Glencorrwg, whatever, but they're still remaining empty. And is there what is the process of obtaining them for the council and bringing them back into use? Is there any progress in that?
Thank you. So this is a separate project to the work Environmental Health do. So Environmental Health do a lot of work around empty properties, and this is a particular pot of money for people to apply for empty homes to bring those properties back into use. They're grants rather than the wider piece of work that Environmental Health are doing around empty properties across Neath, Talbot. Rob, do you want to just go over the project and what it's about, what it does and where we are with it? Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine. So the empty home scheme, that's slightly different to the one which you're referring to, Councillor Jones, with the Environmental Health. That's the one that the public can apply to have the empty homes grant. As you can see from the figures in the report, it's a very successful scheme. At least the front end is at the moment. There's a lot of properties in amongst the scheme at the moment that are at various stages. It takes probably a year, 18 months, almost 2 years for someone to actually complete on site. The completions on site is just 9 at the moment, but we've had 155 applications throughout the scheme, so they're all at various stages. The scheme is full at the moment because we allocate the money to each applicant that comes in. So that side of it is going very, very well. We're just waiting for more empty homes to be finished on site, and then we'll start to see the completion figures then start to rise then, because there's quite a lot of them in the schemes, and they are across the authority. They're not in any specific areas. We are also looking at specific empty properties within the Pontardawyr area. With regard to the Section 106 money, we've had a list of about 15 from Environmental Health, which we're working with there. We've been to see quite a lot of them. We've got quite a lot of them in the diary over the next couple of weeks to inspect as well. So that side of it is moving, and hopefully we'll have some progress on that for the next report.
Do you want to come back, Jeff?
No, that's fine. Thank you. Cheers.
Yeah, thanks for that, Rob. Sharon Fugard, please.
Oh, thanks, Chair. Chair, I was just wondering if we could have a copy of the analysis report from Mark.
We can bring a paper in regards to the needs of people. Yep, that's not a problem. The
Okay.
Ambassador Treetops
Yeah,
one, is that?
yeah.
Yeah, of course, we can bring a report to you with that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Shelley.
Right, I think the final question then is I'll just turn that over. Yeah, the leasing scheme Wales. That's quite negative, really. It's clearly a problem. Obviously, you know, the rules on it are not working for the landlords or things like that. So have you got a bit more information on that, please?
Yeah, I'm sure Rob's done a lot of work on this. So Rob, would you like to come in?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, you're right. It's not a very positive picture, and this is the case in quite a few of the authorities across Wales as well. Some of them are quite successful, and the bottom line goes down to local housing allowance. A lot of the landlords know they can get considerably more rent going privately on the private market than they can going through the leasing scheme with us. So we've been to see quite a lot of properties since it's been live. In fact, we've had 30 inquiries over the last 2 weeks, and this is because Rent Smart Wales did a promotion for us. So we've had a number of inquiries there. some of the properties we're getting in, the cost to do the work is just far excessive. So they're not really suitable because it's the £25,000 limit on it. So there are a number of reasons why these properties aren't going through to actually signing up to the scheme. We have two which we've reported for a couple of months now that are at the advanced stage. One of them is actually being signed next week to execute all the legal documents, and the second one is going to be in about 2 to 3 weeks after that. So we're hoping that is now going to be the start of the ball rolling down the hill for us. We've spoken to a couple of authorities where they were very slow starting as well, and they said the same. They had a lot of negative impact from it, and then they had a couple, and then it started to roll because landlords are starting to talk to each other. So we're really hoping, we're promoting, we're in the landlord forums, we're promoting it wherever we can. We are having a lot of interest, but then once they look down to the detail, local housing allowance is far too low for them. They can get more money on the high street, and that is our main problem. But we're certainly pushing it at every opportunity. There's a lot of interest coming in. It's just trying to get these few over the line, and then hopefully more will follow.
Okay, thanks, Rob. There's no further questions on that, so I'm going to move on now. Agenda item 6, performance monitoring. This is a standing agenda item, but there are no items today to be considered. A half-yearly update report for the corporate plan covering quarters 1 and 2 performance is going to be monitoring has been added to the forward work programme now for the 12th of December. I'm going to go straight on to agenda item 7. So over to Angela to update on anything there. Yeah. Oh, Angela. Pamela. I'm even reading it.
Afternoon, members. I'll just go through some of the changes to the Cabinet Forward Work Programme. You will have already seen some of these on the papers on the Scrutiny Forward Work Programme. So there are some reports added to Cabinet. I won't go through the dates for Cabinet. I'll just go through the dates they come into Scrutiny. So we've got the Corporate Plan Annual Report 23-24. That's come into Scrutiny on the 12th of December for post-scrutiny. And all these additions to the Forward Work Programme have been in agreement with the Chair. We've got CIW, Foster Wales, Neath, Talbot Inspection Report. That's come to Scrutiny on the 23rd of January for post-scrutiny. Permission to consult on the business case for a model of domiciliary care. That has been moved on the Scrutiny Forward Work Programme from to January. We were seeing that earlier, but it's been moved back to January, and it's been pushed back on the Cabinet Forward Work Programme as well. Risk management and complex community casework. It's been added to Scrutiny Forward Work Programme for the 12th of December. That will be for post-scrutiny. Housing Support Grant Midpoint Strategic Review. Added to Scrutiny Forward Work Programme 23rd of January. That would be for pre-scrutiny. Unpaid Carers Ombudsman Report. Added to the Forward Work Programme for post-scrutiny, January the 23rd. And the CSSIW Assurance Check. Added to the Forward Work Programme for the 12th of December for post-scrutiny. You will notice there's a mix of post and pre-scrutiny. So therefore some of the reports will be available prior to our meeting, which will ease the amount of reading you have to do prior to our scrutiny meeting. And I will let you know when the Cabinet agenda has been published. There's a few changes as well on the Scrutiny Forward Work Programme. The progress update on Tremaglin, which was it was a scrutiny report. It's now also going to Cabinet, so it will be coming to us and Cabinet, and it's been retitled Permission to Proceed with Remodelling of Care and Support at Tremaglin. The Direct Payment Whole Service Review, Permission to Consult report, has moved from today's meeting to next meeting on the 12th of December, and we will be having a prevention and early intervention update on the 12th of December. 23rd of January meeting, we will be having the Area Planning Board Annual Report for 23-24. Moving on to the 13th of March meeting, Western Bay Regional Partnership Board, that's been added to the Forward Work Programme. And last but not least, 1st of May 2005, a report on the Youth Justice Service has been added. Just want to let members know of those changes. that you can see in the forward work programmes. I don't know if members have got anything further. No, I can't see anything. I just make one more point. Previously, the committee had asked for a report on the Child Protection Register. There is an all-members seminar on safeguarding on the 21st of November, and that will be covered in that seminar. So following that, if members do have any further questions, we can reprogram that into our forward work programme. Thank you.
Okay, there's no further questions.
Yeah.
From, oh, Sharon, I should have seen that hand going for your screen then.
Oh, sorry.
Go on.
Yeah. The seminar, will it include detailed information on the CPR? Because I really feel that it's Social Services Committee that need to have that data. So when I've asked for all the other data, is that going to be with that? Because it's good to have all the data together. And I think
Andrew,
somebody in committee had asked for the on and off data for CPR, for the CPR, the register. It wasn't me, it was somebody else. So I think we were going to have some information on that. I'm talking about separately so that we can look at it in a different perspective on social services.
If I could come back in there, Chair. Yes,
Yeah.
I'm happy to send the data, the most recent data. We have previously sent that data around in response to it being requested, but I'm happy to do that as well as the seminar if that's
So is that going to be then through Pam and to the committee members direct, is it? Yeah, I'm happy with that. Right, okay, no
Thank
further
you.
questions. Is that okay, Sharon? No further questions. So I'm going straight on to agenda item 8. I have no urgent items. Agenda item 9. We will now need to consider the private items included on the agenda. As you can see on the agenda, the private paragraph is there for everyone to read. I will propose, can I have a seconder please, to move into private?
A second, Chair.
Thank you, Dave. Can I please ask that any public or press in attendance now exit the meeting, and can the recording be stopped?